Hey everyone, welcome back to another project in React Native. So in this project, we'll be building a full stack laundry app in React Native using the Expo framework and the Firebase as database. So we'll be logging in users, registering users, and we'll be storing all of the users into our Firebase database. Okay. And all of the products you're seeing on the screen is coming from the backend itself, right? And we'll be storing all of the orders of that particular user into the Firebase database as well, and we'll be focusing only on the client side of the application for now, right? So now let's look into the demo part of it. So towards my right, you can see the initial screen being rendered, that is our home screen. Okay, so towards the top we have the location being shown. Okay, so this location will not show correctly on your simulator. Okay, it's not showing for me correctly. It might show for you guys, right? So but it's going to show you the exact location on your own phone, so you can try that out by scanning the QR code present. And after that we have a basic search bar, and we have a carousel being rendered, and we have a horizontal component that is scrollable. Okay, that is basically the services available, and we have all of the products being rendered after that, right? So we can add some products into the cart and check it out. So this is entirely managed by Redux as the state management tool. So let's add some products. Okay, so you can see a button which says view bucket. So if I press on that, we'll be taken to the next screen, okay, where we need to enter the address. So this is just a dummy component that I've rendered. Okay, so if I just press on proceed to cart, you will get an alert message which says you need to select all of these details. Okay, so we have pretty much the pickup date, we have the select time, and we have the delivery date. Okay, that is in how many days we need to get the items delivered, right? So let's select some of the details. Okay, so basically if I press on proceed to cart button, we will be taken to the next screen where all of our details will be rendered, right? So we have the product details over here, and pretty much the selected date, the number of days, and selected pickup time is present. Okay, and we can increase or decrease quantity over here as well, and you can see the total price being changed. Okay, so now if I just press on the place order button, you can see a unique animation like this, and after pressing this, all of our order has been stored inside of our Firebase database for that particular user, right? And in the build we can include a small button over here so that we can navigate back to the home screen. Okay, so this is the front end part. So let me just show you uh, the login screen as well as the register screen, right? So let's look into that now. So if I refresh and open it up again, so you can again come back to the original profile, right? Okay, so loading product. So after it has been loaded, you can see the products coming back. So if I press on my profile, you have basically whatever the profile name with which I created it, and we have a sign out button. So if I press on sign out, I'll be automatically taken to the login screen. Okay, so this is your basic login screen. So if you don't have an account, then sign up. So this is your register screen. Okay, so we'll be implementing this features in the later part of the video. Okay, so I think that's it about the demo video. So let's get started with the build. Okay guys, so let's get started with the project. So the first step is to create a expo manage project. So let's go do that. So inside my terminal, okay, so let me go to my build folder. Okay, and inside my build folder I'm gonna create our project folder, right? So I'm gonna say expo init, the project name. Okay, let's say laundry app, something like this, and we're gonna press on enter. So this should ask us to choose a template. So we'll be choosing a blank template for now, and we're gonna select enter, right? So this should create all of our dependencies and create our project folder for us. Okay, so it's installing all the JavaScript dependencies. So let's wait for some time, and after it has been installed, we are going to go into the project structure and look into the boilerplate code whatever expo has given us, right? So let's wait for some more time. Okay guys, so the project has been installed. Okay, so the next step is let's go into that particular folder, that is cd laundry app. Okay, and then I'm going to say code dot. So let's pretty much close the previous VS Code. We're going to work with this. Okay. Okay, so I've opened up my app.js. So this is the basic static point of our application. Okay, so we have a return block that is given with a view, and we just have a basic text which says open up app.js to start working on your app, right? And we have some basic styles given over here that is for the container of this view. Okay, so let's run our application. So let's open up a new terminal, and we are in the correct directory. So we're gonna say expo start. Okay, so I'm gonna open up the developer tools. Okay, so we have, so this is basically the expo developer tool. So we have 5 options to see our app. So the first option is run on Android device or emulator, and the second option is run on iOS simulator or run in web browser. And pretty much these two options which say send link with email or publish or republish project. Okay, and you can even view the application on your own phone by scanning this QR code present, right? So to do that, you need to have installed expo go on your on your phone from the Play Store or the App Store, and you can scan the code to see the application. Okay, so I'm gonna choose the second option, that is run on iOS simulator, and we're gonna wait for it to install on our simulator. Okay, so it should pretty much show up this text which says open up app.js to start working on your app, because that's what we are returning in the initial render, right? So I think it's gonna take some time. Okay, it's building up the JavaScript bundle. Yeah, it's still taking some more time. Yeah, so there you go, you can see the text which says open up app.js to start working on your app. Okay, so that's the basic text we have, and it is currently in the center part because of these two styles, that is align items to center and justify content of center, right? So if I just remove that out, okay, so you can see that coming right at the top. Okay, it's almost touching the status bar too. So now we are going to create our project structure on towards, I mean, in the file tree. So we're going to create let's say two to three folders. So the first thing we have is our screens folder. Okay, and we'll also have our components folder, and we're going to have a data folder for now. Okay, because afterwards it's coming from the firebase, so we're going to say data folder like this. Okay, and we're going to create our first screen inside our screens folder. That's the next step. So we're going to say new screen. I'm going to say home screen.js like this, and I'm going to say rnfes to get the shorthand snippet, that is React Native Functional Export with the style sheet. Okay, so to get the shorthand snippets, you need to have installed ES7 inside your system. So if you come over to the extensions block over here, so I think it's, yeah, this is the one. Okay, so if you install this, you will get all of the shortcode snippets that I'm using currently, right? So let's come back to the file tree, and this is our initial home screen. So let me initialize my home screen into my app.js. Okay, so I'm gonna remove all of this. Okay, I'm just gonna import my home screen like this into my app.js. So you can see the home screen coming. So currently let me make use of a safe area view because it's almost touching the status bar right at the top. So I'm gonna say safe area view like this. Okay, so instead of the view, I'm gonna paste the safe area view. So there you go, now it's in the correct position. Okay, so let's start building up, right? So the first thing we need is to render the location at the top part of our home screen. Okay, so let's do that. So for the location part, we need to install some dependency, right? That is expo location. So let's go do that. So let's head over to Chrome first, and let's search for expo location. Okay, and let's go into the first link, that is the export docs, and we're going to install this. Okay, so if you are into a bare React Native app, you need to follow these configurations to install. So for a basic expo app, we're going to copy this piece of code and come back to the terminal, open up a new terminal and paste this code. Okay, so it's going to install the expo location dependency into our package.json. Let's give that a check. Yeah, you can see that being installed. So now inside my home screen, let me first import it. So we're going to say import star as location from the expo location. Okay, so there are few steps to follow to get the location of a user, right? So the first step is you need to check if the location services has been enabled in that particular simulator or phone. Okay, if that's not enabled, you need to enable it. All right, so after that has been enabled, you need to get the latitude and longitude of that particular person, okay, of that current location. So after getting that latitude and longitude, you need to make use of the reverse geocode function, and you need to convert that latitude and longitude coordinates into the original location. Okay, so these are the some basic steps that we'll be following now. So firstly, I'll be making use of a listener, that is use effect, to check if the location is enabled or not, and also after that we're going to get the current location of the user, right? So I'm going to say use effect. Okay, so let me import use effect from the correct one, that is React, not this thing. Okay, so the way use effect works is, so use effect is going to run every once the home screen component loads, and if there is nothing present inside of a dependency array. Okay, so there is something called as dependency array inside the use effect. So if there is nothing present, it's going to run every once the home screen loads, and every once again whenever there is a state update inside the home screen. Okay, if I just include an empty dependency array, this use effect is going to run only once when the home screen loads. Okay, if there is something included inside of the dependency array, let's say something like item, so this use effect is going to run every once the home screen loads, and again it's going to run every once this particular item value changes, right? So that's the basic understanding of use effect. So I'll be making use of just an empty dependency array. So I just wanted to run only once when the home screen component loads, and we'll be initializing two functions, that is check if location enabled. Okay, so this is basically to check if the location is enabled in that particular cell phone or not. And after that we have get current location function. Okay, so after this we have our state to be initialized so that we can store our address. So we're going to say const display current address comma set display current address equals to use state. Okay, and we're gonna provide an initially empty message, not an empty message, some message which says we are loading your location, because it's going to take some time when the app loads to get the location. So after the location has been loaded, we'll be showing this again, display current address. So before that we'll be showing this message which says we are loading your location. Okay, and we need the second thing, that is const location services enabled comma set location services enabled equals to use state, and initially it's going to be false. Okay, so these are the two things we require in state, right? So now we're going to define the first function, that is check if the location is enabled or not, right? So we're going to say const check if location enabled equals to basically an arrow function. So we're going to make this function an async function. Okay, it's going to take some time to do this, so we're going to make it an async function. So firstly we're going to say let enabled equals to await, because we're using async, we're going to say await location. So this location is coming from over here, that is the expo location. So we're going to say location dot has enabled, has services enabled async. Okay, if it is not enabled, we're going to give a alert message to the user. Okay, so I think we can just copy the alert from the React Native docs. So we're going to head over to Chrome again, and we're going to say alert React Native. So come over here, the second link, and we just need a 2-button alert, right? So we're going to copy this alert message and let's just paste it over here, right? And let's import alert from a React Native as such over here. Okay, so let's write down the messages instead of this. So it's gonna be a location services are not enabled, and for the message we're gonna say please enable the location services as such. Okay, and we basically have the cancel button and the OK button. You can press both of it, right? So yeah, I think that's it. So after this, inside the else condition, we're just gonna set the enabled path. We're gonna say else, we're gonna set it to the services enabled. We're gonna say set location services enabled to whatever enabled it is present, right? We're gonna say enabled. Okay, yeah, I think that's it about the first thing, that is check location enabled. So in the next function we'll be initializing is to get the coordinates basically. So that is get current location. So let's do that. So we're gonna say const get current location equals to an arrow function. So this also is gonna be basically async function. So we're going to say async like this, and firstly we're going to access the status. So we're going to say const status equals to await location dot request foreground permission async. So this is the function that we'll be using. Okay, so we're going to check the condition if the status is not equal to granted. Okay, so in this case again we're gonna show out the alert message to the user which says it's not granted. So let's pretty much paste it over here, and this is gonna say permission not granted or permission denied, something like this. And inside the message we're gonna say allow the app to use the location services. Okay, so after this has been initialized, that is after we have given the permission to use the location services, we're gonna get the coordinates, right? So that's the next step I told. So we're gonna say const coordinates equals to await location dot get current position async. Okay, so this is gonna give us the latitude and longitude of that particular user of that current location. Okay, so we're gonna say if we have the cards present, what we're gonna do is we're gonna destructure the latitude and longitude from the cards. So we're gonna say const latitude comma longitude equals to cards. Okay, so as I told, after getting the latitude and longitude, we need to apply the reverse geocode method on the latitude and longitude to get the exact location. Okay, so we're gonna say let response equals to again await location dot, we're gonna say reverse geocode async. That's this function. We're gonna pass in an object to this function that is basically our latitude and longitude. Okay, so after this we have is we're gonna say we're gonna make use of a for a loop. So for let item of the response, whatever we got, okay, so I'll just be taking three values from this. Okay, so we're going to say let address equals to, I'm going to make use of backticks, and we're going to take in basically the item dot name. Okay, and after this we have the item dot, oh, I think it's going to be the city, right? And we have the item dot postal code. Okay, so just to be sure, I'll just console.log the coordinates whatever it's coming. So I'm gonna say console.log of cards, and after that I'm also gonna console.log the response too. So console.log of response. Okay, and after we have done this, we're just gonna set the address, right? So we're gonna say set display current address to be the address itself. So let me just save the file, and hopefully nothing should go wrong. Okay, okay, can't find use state. Let's import it from React. Okay, yeah, so there you go. Expo needs permission, so it's asking us permission to use the location services. So let's allow it, right? Okay, we have some error, I guess. Can't find variable granted. Okay, is the spelling wrong or something like that? Okay, I think okay, I guess it should be inside of double quotes, because that value is currently undefined. So let's save the file. Yeah, so there you go, we have got the exact location. So firstly we have got this is coming from the coordinates. We have the latitude, longitude, accuracy, heading, speed, and all those other details. So from these details we just want the latitude and longitude. Okay, and after applying the latitude and longitude into the reverse geocode method, that is over here, we are getting the response, right? So response is basically, we have the city, we have the country, district, name, postal code, street number, subregion, time zone. Okay, so from that what I have taken is basically the name, city, and postal code. So if you're interested in other details, you can take that and you can set that address into the state, that is set display current address. Okay, so now we have the address stored inside of our state. So let's just render that, right? So we're going to make use of a view, and we're going to say text. Inside the text field we're just going to say display current address. So save the file. So there you go, you can see the address being correctly displayed, but this is not my exact correct address. Okay, so if you just check out in your phone, it should be working correctly fine, because I've already checked it out. So yeah, I think we can look into the design part. So you have text which says home, and towards the left we have the location button. So let's render that, right? So let's remove this part, and let's also remove our console.log messages, or just comment it out for now, right? So yeah, let's go firstly go into the expo icons and get the location icon. So I'm going to say expo.icons.fii, and the first link, so let's search for location as such, and let's take this one from material icons, copy the import code, paste it over there, copy the render component code, and we're going to paste it right over here. So let me save the file. Yeah, so you can see that coming. So let's increase the size, say 30, and I think I just want a red shade of CSS for this, so let me just take in that. So red shade CSS. So let's take in a light color, let's say this one, and instead of black, let me paste that over here. Okay, so we have two texts inside the second part, which says home and the location. So for that reason, I'll be initializing a view over here. Okay, so this is gonna come over here, and this view is gonna have the first text which says home. Okay, so Let me just format once. So this is gonna have, okay, I don't think we need any styles because for this view, because it should be in a column fashion. So for the text, okay, let's give some basic styling. So we're gonna say a font size of 18 and a font weight of, let's say 600. Yeah, I think that's looking better. So after that we have is a profile. So let's just create our own profile. Okay, so this is just to navigate to the next screen, so that to show the sign out button and your user login ID. So after this I'm gonna render let's say a pressable. So let's import pressable from React Native as such. So over here, okay, and inside the pressable it's gonna take the image tag. Okay, it's gonna take in a source and URI. So for the time being I'll just be giving my own URI. Okay, so I'll just go over to Chrome and just take my Google image. So copy image address and just paste it over here. And for the style, let's give some basic styling. Let's say a width of 50 and a height of 50, and we're gonna give a border radius of exactly half of the width and height to make it look circular. That is 25. And let's import image from React Native. Okay, so let's give a format once. Right, so let me save the file. Yeah, so you can see that coming. So now for the outer view, which contains 3 children, that is the material icons, this view and the pressable. For that we're going to give the style. So let's say style. We're going to say a flex direction of row and align items of center. Okay, cool. So now for the pressable we're going to give some style. We're going to say style. We're just going to say a margin left of auto, so that it pushes it pushes itself towards the left. So save the file. So there you go, it has pushed itself towards the right part of the container, not left. Okay, so now let's give some margin right to it. We're gonna give margin height of 7. Okay, I think let's decrease the size. It's looking too big for the initial container. Let's give 40 and then 20 over here. Yeah, I think that's looking better. So now for the view, let's give some internal spacing, that is a padding of 10. Okay, yeah, I think that's looking good. So after that we have is the next thing, that is our search bar, right? So let's look into that. So after the view we're going to render the search bar. So this is basically for the location and profile. Okay, so for the search bar let's initialize another view. So basically we're gonna have, let's say, a text input, and we're gonna have a search icon. So we're gonna say text input like this. Let's import the text input from React Native as such. So we're gonna say text input. Okay, and this is gonna have a placeholder basically. So we're gonna say placeholder which says search for items. Or more. Okay, and after this we have is the icon. So let's go get the icon real soon. So here we're gonna say search. Yeah, let's take it from feather itself. Let's import the icon family first into our code, and we're gonna copy the render component code as well, and this is gonna come right after the text input, right? So let's yeah, I think it's done. So let me save the file. Okay, so for this let's give internal spacing of 10, padding of 10. Okay, and we're gonna give overall border to it. Let's also give a margin of 10, some external spacing. Okay, and we're gonna give a flex direction of row. It's currently in column fashion. Flex direction of row, align items of center, and justify content of space between. Okay. Okay, so the next thing we have is we are going to give a border to this. We're going to say border width of 0.8, and we're going to give a border color. Okay, so we're going to say, let's say C0, C0, C0. It's going to be a light gray color. Okay, so there you go. Let's give some border radius as well. Border radius of, let's say, 7. Yeah, so there you go. You can see the border radius being applied, and let's change the color of the icon. Okay, let's give the same color that we gave to the location icon, that is this one, and instead of black, let's paste this color out. Okay, yeah, so there you go. So the next thing we have is the carousel. Okay, so let's look into that. So for the image carousel, I think we need to install a dependency, so let's go do that. So let's head over to Chrome and let's search for React Native image slider box. So we'll be adding this dependency into our application. Okay, so let's install this using yarn or npm. So yarn add React Native image slider box. Okay, so let me go to my new terminal and paste this over right here. Okay, so let's wait for it to install and let's look into how we can use it. Right, we have used it in the previous project, I guess. Okay, so firstly we need to import slider box from React Native image slider box. So let's do that part over here. Okay, and okay, I think let's create a new component and then let's do that over there. So inside a components folder, we're gonna say carousel.js and rnfes. Okay, so let's import this piece of code inside our carousel. So I think you need to just take this out, that is the component, and render it over here. Okay, so let me just get the images. Okay, so I've just pasted out the images that we want to display the carousel. So over here, let's start writing all the props over here. So images is gonna be the images array, and we're gonna give a autoplay option to this and even circle loop so that it loops over, and there is a prop called as the dot color. Okay, so this is gonna be a 13274f. Okay, so similar to dot color, we have the inactive dot color. So we're gonna say inactive dot color. Okay, so let me just look into the color. So it's gonna be 90 A4 AE, right? So after that, let's give some styling to this. That is, it's gonna be the image component style. It's gonna take in basically an object. We're gonna give it a slight border radius of 6, and next we're gonna give the width to the images. Let's say a 94%, and we're gonna format it once. Okay, so these are the basic things that we need to provide to the slider box component, that is the images, autoplay, circle loop, and we have the inactive dot color, the dot color, and the image component style. Okay, I think that's it. Let's import our carousel into our home screen. I think we might get an error. Okay, similar to the previous error we got in the previous project, if you would have checked it out. Okay, so we're gonna write a comment which says image carousel as such, like this. Okay, and let's pretty much import our carousel from the components folder. There you go, it has been imported, and let me save the file. Yeah, so there you go. We are getting the same error which says view prop types has been removed from React Native. Migrate to view prop types, exporting from depreciated React Native prop types. Okay. So to solve this error out, we're going to add some dependency. We're going to say yarn add depreciated React Native prop types. Okay. So after installing this dependency, I'm going to copy some code. Okay, so let me just copy that code right now. Okay guys, I've just copied my code into the clipboard. So I'm gonna go into the node modules folder, and I'm gonna go into the React Native folder. So just go to React Native over here and get into the index.js file and go over to where we have depreciated prop types. Okay, that's gonna be around 400, I guess. Yeah, it's on line number 437. So just select all of the four things. Okay, select these four things and just paste whatever I'm pasting. Okay, don't worry, I'll be sending whatever I pasted in the description or in the drive link most probably. Okay, so after pasting over this, just save the file, come back, and just I think it's better to cut the server and start off once again with expo start, and hopefully it should give us the correct image carousel this time. Let me open up the developer tools, and second option, that is run on iOS simulator. So let's wait for the app to install, and it should show us the home screen with the image carousel probably. So yeah, let's wait for it and check it out. Okay, there you go. It is correctly working. So you can see the image carousel being correctly displayed. Okay, so further on, when you develop the application and when you add new dependencies, okay, again this might cause an error. So you will get the same error which says view prop types has been removed from React Native. So whenever you get this error, you just need to go into the node modules, the React Native folder, index.js file inside the React Native folder, line number 437, and just paste whatever I've given. I'll be sending that in the description or in the drive link. Okay. Okay, so the next thing we have is basically the services to be displayed, right? So let's look into that. So I'm gonna create a new component altogether that is known as services.js. Okay, and then rnfes to get the shorthand snippet. So we need some data to get the services, right? So I'll just be getting the code right now for the services data. Okay guys, I've just pasted the data for the services. Okay, so if you check out the design over here, so after the carousel we have all the services, which is a horizontally scrollable component, right? So we're gonna design that enough. Okay, so firstly, let me just go through the services data. So it is an array of objects, as you can see. So we basically have 4 objects. This is one, second one, third, and fourth. So each of the object has a unique ID inside of it, and we have an image for each object and the name for it. Okay, so we'll be making use of this and we'll be rendering our component. Okay, so since this is a horizontally scrollable view, I'm gonna make use of a scroll view for this. So I'm gonna say scroll view. Let me import my scroll view from React Native as such, like this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna basically map over this services array. So I'm gonna say services dot map. So for each and every service and the index from the map that it's coming, I'm gonna render a whole new pressable. So I'm gonna say pressable as such, and let me import my pressable from React Native like this. Okay, and what I'm going to do is, firstly, as you can see, we have the image, and beneath the image we have is the tag, the text tag, right? I'm going to render the image like this. So the image is pretty much going to take in the source. So it's going to be the URI. So URI is going to be item.image. Okay, so not item, service.image, because service is mapped through to each object Okay, to access each value, we'll be making use of the dot operator and the value name. So if you want image, it's gonna be service dot image, right? So we're gonna say service dot image, and for the pressable, let's provide the key, which is gonna be the index. Okay, let's give some style to the image. So we're gonna give a width of 70 and a height of 70, and we're gonna give a resize mode. Resize, is this the correct spelling? Okay, let's look into it afterwards. Okay, after this we have is the text. Okay, so the basically the text is gonna say service dot name. Okay, we have imported image pressable. Let's import image as well. That's not imported. Okay, cool. Save the file. So now let's import our services component into our home screen after the carousel. We're gonna say services component, and we are just gonna render the services component from the components folder like this. Okay, it has been imported. So let me save the file. Yeah, so there you go. We are seeing all the images and the text showing up. So before that, I'm gonna give a background color to the entire home screen over here. So I'm gonna say style. Okay, it's gonna be a background color of F0, 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 and let's give it a flex of 1. Okay, so that it covers entirely, right? So the next thing we will look into is basically let's come back to our services, and let's give the style to the pressable. And before that, we're going to write in a text attribute which says services available, services available. Okay, so for this we are going to give a bit of padding for the outer view, right? And for the styling of the pressable, we're going to give some spacing, external spacing, because these are touching each other and we want it in a horizontal fashion. So for the scroll view, let's give a prop over here. We're going to say just horizontal, and we're going to say show horizontal scroll indicator, and we're going to set it to be false. Okay, so save the file. Yeah, so you can see it scrolling in the horizontal fashion. That is good. Okay, so for the text, let's give some basic styling. We're going to say a font size of 16 and a font weight of 500 and a bit of spacing towards the bottom, so margin bottom of 7. Okay, that's looking good. So now for the pressable, we're going to give a background color of white and some padding of 20. Okay, and we're going to give a border radius to make it look a bit circular of 7. Okay, and for the text that we have, it's currently not correctly aligned with the image, so for that reason I'm going to say style, or we're going to say text align of center, and we're going to say margin top of 6. Okay, let's give 10. 6 is looking a bit small. Yeah, I think that's looking better. So yeah, we have designed the services component, right? So the next thing we'll be looking into is our products that we need to render, right? So this is going to happen inside the home screen itself. So firstly, let me get the code for the products. Okay, that is basically the images. So let me do that right now. Okay guys, I've just pasted the services code, right? So again, we have an array of objects. Let's say we have 6 or 7 objects, and each of the object has a unique ID, a image tag, the name of that particular product, the quantity is set to be 0, and the price of that particular product in dollars, right? So we'll be making use of this, and we will design the home screen. Okay, so before that, since we have 7 objects, 7 products, it's gonna go to the bottom of the screen. So for that, I'll be making use of the scroll view so that we can scroll over the home screen. So I'm gonna say scroll view. Let me import scroll view instead of the view over here. Instead of the safe area view, I'm gonna say scroll view. The same thing is gonna come over here. Okay, so let's provide some margin top to the scroll view. So we're gonna say a margin top of 50 and save the file. Okay, so now we are able to scroll through it even if we have a lot of products. Okay, so I'll be making use of the services array and render all the products. So this is gonna say render all the products, right? So we're gonna say services dot map for each and every item and index. We're gonna render a whole new component. Okay, so firstly let's create that component. So we're gonna say a new file. It's gonna be, let's say, dress item dot js, and then our nfes to get the shorthand snippet, and save the file. So for each and every item inside the services array, we're going to render the dress item component, and we're going to pass in some props to it, right? We're going to pass in the item itself to the dress component, and the key is going to be index. Okay, so let me just save the file. Okay, so we are seeing 7 items being rendered, 7 items being rendered. So the reason this happens is, so we are rendering, we are mapping to the services array over here, and for each item we are rendering a new component, that is dress item, right? So inside our dress item we just have a basic text which says dress item. So each time this gets rendered, we have 7 objects, so that's the reason it's getting rendered 7 times on the screen. Okay, so now we have passed some data as props, right? So this item, in the sense, it is referring to each object information. Okay, so we'll be making use of these information and we'll be rendering the dress item component. Okay, so we'll be basically looking into the design part. That's what I meant. So we have passed the data as props, so now it's time to receive the data as props. So I'm going to destructure the value, that is item, as such. And if you look at the design, we have the button, the image, and we have 2 texts, that is the name and the price, and towards the right we have the button. Okay, so we'll be having 3 views for that. So I'm gonna say a view. So this is for the image, this is for the 2 texts, and the final one I'm gonna have is a pressable because we need to click on it. So this is for the add button. Got it? So we're gonna say pressable, and for the first one, as I told, it's gonna be the image. So let me write the image tag, import it from React Native as such, and we're gonna give it the source. It's gonna take in the URI, so it's gonna be item.image itself. Okay, so if you check out the home screen, and if you check out the image tag, it's going to be the same, item.image. So that's why I've written that, and we're going to give the style to it. So it's basically going to have a width of 70. Okay, and it's going to have a height of 70. Yeah, I think that's it. So let me save the file. Yeah, so you can see all the images showing up. Okay, and we're going to have outer pressable, and which is going to contain all of these 3 children. Okay, so let me just format the document once, and for the outer pressable, which contains these 3 children, I'm going to give the style to it. So it's basically going to have a background color of f8, 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 a slight border radius of, let's say, 8, a bit of internal spacing, that is padding of 10. Okay, and since we have 3 children, that is the image, 2 texts, and the add button, we're going to give a flex direction of row and align items of center. And we have justify content of space between. Apart from that, let's give some margin, that is some external spacing to the outer pressable as well, 14, and save the file. Okay, so there you go. You can see all of the images within that particular container, right? So it's exactly looking the same. So now we need to render the remaining part, so that is the text. So I'm going to render two text attributes over here. So the first text is gonna say item dot name. So there you go, you can see the name coming out. And the next thing we have is item dot price. Okay, so let's keep it in dollar. Cool. So the next thing we have for the pressable is the button, which is gonna say add. Okay, so now let's style out the pressable, that is basically the add button. So we're gonna say style, we're gonna give it a width of 80. Okay, and for the style we have some styles as well, that is basically the border and the color of it. So we're gonna say border color, it's gonna be gray, it's gonna have a border width of 0.8. okay, a bit of margin vertical of 10, and it's gonna have a color of basically 0.8F8F. okay, so that's the color for it. And we're gonna give a text align of center. Okay, and just some internal spacing, a padding of 5. So if I just format the document, and this is the styling for the pressable, let me just save the file. Okay, so there you go, you can see the add button being designed. And we're gonna give a border radius to the pressable. We're gonna say border radius of 6. Okay, let's give that to the text. Yeah, that's being applied. Okay, so for the text, let's make it look bold. So font size is gonna be 17, and the font weight is gonna be bold, right? Yeah, I think that's looking better. So I think let's decrease the border radius to 4. Yeah, that looks better. So now as you can see, the texts are not correctly aligned. Okay, some are going towards the left, some are coming towards the right. So we're going to handle that by providing the width attribute, right? So we're going to say style, so this is going to have a width of 83 and a font size of again 17 and a font weight of 500. Okay, and it's going to have a margin bottom since it's almost touching the price text. So we're going to say margin bottom of 7 and save the file. Okay, so there you go. Now all of the texts have been correctly aligned. So let's also provide some styling to the second part. We're gonna give a width of 60 to this. Okay, and a bit of, let's try and give it a color of gray. Okay, I don't think it's looking that good. Let's say font size of 15. Okay, yeah, I think it's better, not bad, not good. Okay, so I think that's it about the home screen design. So the next thing we'll be looking into is the Redux part. Okay, so after initializing the Redux part, then only we'll be moving into the next screen, because if we add items to the cart, then only we can move into the next screen, right? So I think, yeah, the next step is to integrate Redux into our application. So let's do that part. Okay, so to integrate Redux into our application, first let's install the dependencies for Redux. Okay, so we'll be basically using the Redux toolkit and implementing all the functionalities, right? So let's head over to Chrome and let's search for Redux toolkit, and let's go into the first link of the official docs. Okay, let's press on get started, and we are going to install this using the yarn. So we're going to say copy that piece of code and come back to the terminal, into the new terminal over here, and paste this over. So this should install the dependencies for the Redux toolkit. Okay, so after this we also need the dependency for React Redux. Okay, so we're going to say yarn add React Redux as such, and let's wait for this to get installed. Okay, I think both of them have been installed. So if you come back to the package.json and check it out, React Redux and Redux toolkit both have been installed. So the next step is to initialize the functionalities for it, right? So I don't know why we are not able to see the products. let's start it out from the start. Okay. Yeah, so as I told, while building the application, you might get the same error again and again. That is, view prop types has been removed from React Native, migrate to view prop types, exported from that particular dependency. So I'm just gonna change that and come back again. So I'm gonna go into my node modules, React Native folder, into the index.js file. So I'm gonna get the code and paste it over here. Okay, so I've just pasted the code. So let me save the file and close this file, and I'm gonna cut the server and start it right from the beginning. So again, export start. Okay, so let's open up our local host IO simulator. So hopefully now we should be seeing the correct products. Okay, so this happens when you install a new dependency, right? So each time, sometimes it works properly, sometimes it doesn't. So when it doesn't work, just do and follow the previous method that I've told. Yeah, so there you go. Now we can see the carousel and all the products, right? So the next step is to initialize our reducer files. Okay, so I'm just going to do this at the root of the application itself. So I'm going to press on app.js, new file. I'm going to say cart reducer.js. Okay, so inside this file we will be including all of our functionalities. Let's say add to cart, remove from cart, increment quantity, and then decrement quantity, right? So we'll be creating a slice first. So we're going to say import create slice from Redux toolkit. Okay, then we're going to say export const cart slice equals to, we're gonna get the method that is create slice. Okay, so it's gonna take in our object basically. So here we are gonna say the first thing over here inside the create slice method is the name. So since we are building a cart system, it's gonna be cart, right? You can give in any name which you want. Okay, then we need to provide the initial state, right? So we're gonna say initial state. So since we are including a cart system, there might be different objects, different items inside the cart. So we can make use of an array, right? So basically an array contains all the different cart items present inside of that particular cart. So for that reason, I'm going to initialize a cart and I'm going to provide empty array at the initial state. Okay, so after that, all of our reducers come in. Okay. So we're gonna write our first reducer, that is add to cart. So we're gonna say add to cart. So this is gonna take in the state and the action. Okay, so now let's think how we can implement the add to cart. Okay, so towards the right we have our add button. So if the user presses on the add to cart button for the first time, then we need to just push those particular details into the cart, like the description, the image, the name, the price, and so on. Okay, so if the item is already present inside the cart, that means if the quantity is 1, then in that case we are just going to increase the quantity of that particular item by 1. Okay, so let's try to implement that. So firstly, let's apply and check the condition, that is if the item is already present inside the cart or not. Okay, so we're going to say const item present equals to, we're going to say state dot cart dot find. We'll be making use of the find method, and we're going to check if the item dot id equals to the action dot payload dot id. So if this condition becomes true, then that means of course the item is present inside the cart. Okay, then in that case, if the item is present, then we're just going to simply increase the quantity of that particular item by 1. So we're going to say item present dot quantity plus plus. Else, okay, if the item is not present and the user presses on this add button for the first time, then in that case we should just push all of the details, like whatever we want, that is basically the action.payload, let's say the image, the name, the price, and so on, into the cart. So we're going to say state dot cart dot push whatever is there inside our action.payload, and we're going to initialize the quantity to be 1 of that particular product, because the product is not yet added into the cart, right? So for that reason we are going to push that particular item, and we are going to include the quantity of that particular item by 1. So I think that's it about the add to cart functionality. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this is going to be remove from cart. So again, this is going to take in the state and the action. Okay, and okay, so over here we'll be following the method of filter. So we will be filtering the item from the cart based on the ID of the item inside the cart, right? So we're going to say const remove item equals to state dot cart dot filter. We're going to say if the item dot id is not equal to the action dot payload dot id, right? So we'll be working on this condition. So we'll be basically filtering based on id, that is if the item dot id is not equal to the action dot payload dot id, then that particular item is removed from the cart. Okay, so after that we're just going to say state dot cart, which is going to equate it to the remove item. That's it. Okay, so that's it about the remove from cart. So we'll be moving on to the next reducer, that is increment quantity. So again, this is going to take in basically the state and action. Okay, so over here again we are going to check if the item is already present inside the cart. So in increment quantity is applied on the plus button, and decrement quantity is applied on the minus button. So if the user presses on the plus button, we're just going to check if the item is present. So I'm just going to pretty much copy this piece of code, and we're going to say item present dot quantity plus plus. Okay, so save the file. So that's it about the increment quantity method. The next reducer is going to be decrement quantity. Okay, so this also is going to take basically the state and action. Okay, over here what we're going to do is, again we're going to check if the item is already present. So decrement quantity is applied on the minus button. Okay, so here if the quantity of that particular item is 1, and if the user presses on the minus button, then we should just remove that item from the cart, and we should again show this UI, that is add button, right? So in case if the quantity of that particular item is more than 1, let's say 2, 5, or even 10, then in that case if the user presses on the minus button, then we should decrease the quantity by 1. That's it, right? So we're going to say if item present dot quantity equals to 1. Firstly we're going to set the item present dot quantity equals to 0, and after that we're just gonna remove it. Okay, so to remove we have already written the code, that is remove from cart. So it's gonna be exactly the same thing. So I'm gonna paste it over here. Else, that means the quantity is more than 1, that means it's gonna be at 2, 3 or something like that. So in that case we should just decrement the quantity by 1. So it's going to be item present dot quantity minus minus. Okay, so I think we have defined all of the reducers: add to cart, remove from cart, increment quantity, and decrement quantity. So you can have a look at it once more. Okay, so now we are going to export all of the details. So we're going to say export const add to cart, remove from cart, increment quantity, decrement quantity equals to our cart slice dot actions. Is the spelling right? Yep. So next we need to export the default reducer. So we're going to say export default cart slice dot reducer. Okay, so we have defined all of the functionalities we want inside our cart reducer file. So now there is a basic thing that is called as the Redux store. So we're going to initialize our Redux store right now. Okay, so let's click on app.js and new file. It's gonna be store.js. Okay, so firstly let's import our configure store that we want from Redux toolkit like this, and we're gonna say export default. Let's access the configure store. So we're going to configure the store like this, and it's going to take in an object. Basically this is in turn going to take in basically all the reducers. Okay, we need to give the name for it. So since our first thing is a cart reducer, we're going to say a cart, and we're going to basically import the cart reducer file from that particular file, cart reducer file, right? Like this, right? So let me save the file. So we have created the store and initialized the first reducer, that is the name of cart, and we have imported the cart reducer file from that particular file, right? So now we have only set up the environment. So now for everything to work, you need to include something called as the provider inside the main app.js. So let's do that part right now. So inside the app.js, I'm going to remove basically everything that is only the view, and I'm going to say provider from React Redux, and I'm gonna paste in basically the home screen and the status bar inside the provider. Okay, so by doing this, all of our components has access to the Redux, like whatever cart is present, whatever we have initialized, we can access the cart in any part of our screen as well as any part of our component inside our application, right? So for the provider, there is an important thing that we need to pass, that is the store that we created. So we're going to give the store prop, and we're going to say store. So let's import store from the store file. Okay, so now everything is set up, has been set up. So now if I save the file, let's see, nothing should go wrong, hopefully. It's still refreshing. Okay, nothing has gone wrong. That means we have done things correctly. So now we'll try to access basically the cart, right? So let's do that, and let's access it inside of our home screen. So let me just come over here. We're gonna say, so we'll be accessing cart with the help of the use selector hook. We're gonna say const cart equals to use selector. We're gonna access the state basically. So the way we access the cart is state dot the reducer name. The reducer name is basically cart. So we're gonna say cart, and then to access the cart inside the initial state, let's go into the cart reducer. So it is stored inside of cart. So again, we're going to say cart dot cart again. So console.log cart. So we should be seeing an empty initial array because at the initial state, there is nothing added into the cart. Save the file. So there you go. We are able to see an empty initial array at the starting stage. Okay, so that means everything is working fine. So the next step we'll be looking into is we will also design the next reducer, that is the product reducer, because we need to implement this cart system in such a way that if in case I increment the quantity inside the cart screen, okay, so the same quantity should be reflected for that particular product inside my home screen as well. Okay, so to implement that, I'll be creating one more reducer, that is the product reducer. So let me do that right now. So cart reducer, new file, product reducer.js. So again, it's going to be the same thing, import create slice from the Redux toolkit, and we're going to say export const product slice. The syntax is going to be pretty same from the previous reducer, create slice. Okay, again, the first thing we need to provide is a name. So since we are dealing with the product, let's give the name as product. Okay, and again we have the initial state, right? So initial state is gonna be again an array. So the name I'm gonna give over here is product, and we're gonna give an empty initial array at the starting point, and again we're gonna pass in all of the reducers. So the first reducer that comes inside the product reducer is the get products. So basically whatever data we have inside our home screen, that is services, we are gonna push it into the products array. that is we'll be dispatching whatever products we have into this product, and then we will be writing the functionalities for increment as well as decrement. Okay, so you'll understand while we move forward, don't need to worry. So get products, it's going to take in the state and action again. Okay, so we are just going to say state.action, state.product dot push just whatever is there inside our action dot payload. Right, so let me save the file, and we will need access to increment quantity as well as decrement quantity. Okay, I'll explain why. So before that, I'll just write down the functionalities for it. So it's going to be super similar from the previous one. So I'm going to say increment quantity. Again, it's going to be state comma action. Okay, so as I told, it's going to be super similar. I'm just going to copy it, whatever I've written inside my cart reducer. Okay, so come over here, increment quantity, just copy this piece of code, paste it over here. So instead of searching in the cart, one change we need to make is we need to search it inside the product. Right, so it's like that, and we're going to say decrement quantity. So we're going to say the state and action. Again, this is also going to be the exact same code where we have written inside the decrement quantity. So let's pretty much copy this piece of code and paste it inside of our product reducer right over here. Okay, again, instead of searching inside the cart, we're going to search inside the product array. One more change is over here. All right, so I think that's it about the product reducer. So let's pretty much export all the details. So we're going to say export const get products increment quantity decrement quantity equals to product slides start actions. We're going to export the default reducer. We're going to say export default product slice dot reducer. Okay, let's pretty much save the file, and we have created a second reducer, so we need to include that inside of our store, right? So let's do that. So we're going to say product, and we're going to say product reducer and import it from the product reducer file as such, right? So save the file. We have created two reducers. Now let's come back to our app.js into my home screen. So as I told, instead of mapping through the services, I'll be accessing the product array, and I'll be dispatching each one of the objects into the product array, and then we'll be passing the product instead of services, right? So firstly, let's access my product over here. So we're going to say const product. So to access product from the store, we'll be making use of the use selector hook. Okay, similar to the way we accessed cart. So we're going to say use selector, pretty much access in the state. So the way we access the product is state dot the reducer name is product. So we're going to say product. And then if you check out our product reducer, we have something called as initial state, and inside that we have a product array. So to access this array, we need to write dot product again. Okay, so just to be sure, I'm going to say console.log, give a message which says product array, and I'm just going to call the product over here. Save the file. So there you go, we can see the product array being empty. Okay, so let's remove the console. So now I'll be making use of the listener use effect. Okay, so this is syntax of use effect. So I'll be making this use effect run only once when the home screen loads. So I'm just providing an empty dependency array over here. Okay, so firstly, I'm gonna check if the products dot length is greater than 0 or not, right? So I'm going to say if the product dot length is greater than 0, if that's the case, then just return. Okay, so why am I doing this step, right? So the main reason I'm doing this step is if I don't do this step, okay, as and when I save the home screen, this use effect is going to get triggered off, and when I dispatch events, right, there can be chances that again this services, whatever object is there, gets pushed into the product array, and instead of seeing just 7 items, you can see 14, 21, 28, like so many items gets just pushed into the array. And after we pass the product array over here, again, as I told, many items just come over there, right? So to prevent that, I'm just applying this condition which says if product.length is greater than 0, then just return. After this, I'm gonna initialize a function which says const fetch product and arrow function. So we basically gonna say services dot map for each service. I'm gonna dispatch the get products event, right? I'm gonna say const dispatch. Firstly, let's initialize a dispatch hook equals to use dispatch. It's gonna come from React Redux. Let's import it. Okay, so I'm gonna say dispatch get products, okay, and import it from the product user, and the payload is gonna be service. This is gonna be the action.payload service, and after this I'm just gonna call the function out, that is fetch products. Okay, so that's it. So let's again go through the use effect if you guys didn't understand. So firstly, I'm checking the product.length if it's greater than 0 or not. If it's greater than 0, that means we already have the products present, right? So in that case, we do not want use effect to execute this function. Okay, if at all we don't write this condition, use effect is going to execute this function, and again the same products are going to come into the products array. So over here inside the screen, you can see multiple products of the same type, which we do not want to see. Okay, so that's one reason I've applied this condition. Okay, hope you got it. And yeah, so now let's check out our products array. I'm gonna say console.log of products, save the file. So there you go, you can see all of the items. So even if I save the file or make some changes, nothing is gonna happen. It's gonna remain the exact same thing because of this condition we have applied. Got it. So now what we do is, instead of services, we're gonna map through the product. So it's gonna be product.map, and pretty much it's gonna be same thing. We have already written the dress item component. So save the file, nothing should happen, and we should see exactly the same 7 items. Okay, even if I save the file, nothing should happen. Okay, so I think that's it about the initialization of all of the product user. So now we need to dispatch events. That is basically we need to handle events if the user presses on the add to cart button, so that we will show the quantity in the center, and towards the left and right we'll have the minus button and plus button. So that will be done inside of our dress item component. Okay, so let's do that part right now. So now to implement the quantity part, firstly let's dispatch some actions inside our dress item component where we have the add button. Okay, so before that, let me initialize my use dispatch hook inside this component. So I'm going to say const dispatch equals to use dispatch and import it from React Redux like this. And let me put up an event on this pressable. Let's say on press equals to add item to cart. So I'm going to define this function over here, const add item to cart. Okay, so firstly we'll be dispatching this one, that is increment quantity of, okay, let's dispatch this one first, increment quantity, add to cart of that particular item, that is by passing the payload of this, whatever is coming from the prop. So let's do that. So I'm just gonna say dispatch add to cart, imported from the cart user file, and the payload I'll be passing is the item, whatever is coming from the props of like that particular item, whatever we press on. Okay, so this is taken care of the cart. Okay, so as I told, we'll be implementing in such a way that if at all if we have a cart screen, and if we increase the quantity in the cart screen, the same quantity should be reflected for that particular product in our home screen itself over here also, right? So for that purpose, I'm going to dispatch the second event, that is increment quantity. This is for the product of item. Okay, so this is for the product array, right? So let's understand what exactly happens, right? So if I press on the add button, we have this function that is add item to cart. So it goes over here. So the first code that is on line number 10 is dispatch add to cart of item. Okay, so it goes to this function, it checks whether the item is present or not based on this id. Okay, because it's not present, because action.payload.id is not present inside our cart, so it automatically goes into the else condition. It pushes the action.payload in the sense whatever the item is. Where was that? Yeah, whatever that item is, basically the image, the price, the name, and all of these things. And after pushing that, we have again written to push a quantity of 1 to that particular item inside the cart. Okay, so it goes into this condition. And the next thing we are doing inside the dress item is dispatch increment quantity of item. This is coming from the product reducer, as you can see. So if you check out the product reducer, what exactly happens is you're gonna check, right? You're gonna check the product. So if you would remember, inside the product we have all of the 7 items, because this is because of the use effect that we rendered at the initial stage in the home screen, right? So it's gonna check if that particular product is equals to action.payload.id. Yes, it is equal, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into the item present dot quantity plus plus, because there is already a quantity attribute present. So if you check out our services, you can see this quantity, right? So we are going to try and increase this quantity by 1, and we are simply going to paste it. I mean, we are going to display that when we press on the add button. So that's what's going to happen. So now let me write a condition over here. That is, firstly let me get access to the cart. So I'm going to say const cart equals to use selector. So basically access the state, and I'm going to say state dot cart dot cart. Okay, so I'm firstly checking if at all there is any item in the cart or not. Okay, if it is present, then we need to show the plus button, minus button, and the quantity of that particular item, right? So I'm going to check if I'm going to make use of the sum method in JavaScript. So I'm going to say cart dot sum. Okay, in case if the id equals to the item dot id. Okay, if this condition becomes true, then that means our item is present inside our cart. Okay, so in that case I'll just get the code for it right now. Okay guys, I've just pasted the code for the pressable, that is if at all there is any item present. Okay, so if there is no item present, I'm just gonna paste in whatever is there inside this pressable. That is, we're just gonna show simply the add button itself. Okay, so I'll just show you the code exactly once. So it's going to start over here. So this is the parent pressable. Okay, so inside that parent we have 3 children. Okay, I'll show the code properly. Okay, so for the pressable we have given this style, that is a flex direction of row, a bit of padding horizontal and vertical. Okay, and the first style is going to contain the minus button, so you can check out the style for that. We have given some border color and all of those decent styling. And for the text also, you can check out the style. We have given again font to weight, color, size, text align, and all of those styles. And the next thing we have is the quantity. So as I told, after dispatching this, we are going to just render the item.quantity. Okay, so you can check out that code over here. We have given only styling to the text part, and the next part is of course the plus button. So the plus button and minus button of course have the same styling, except for this symbol that has been changed. Okay, so you can check that out again. Yeah, so once more you can check it out right from the top. Okay, so yeah, let's give this a try. So now what should happen is, let me just save the file. Hopefully nothing should go wrong. Okay, yeah, so now if I press on any one of the add button, it should show me this UI, right? That is minus, quantity, and then plus, because cart has that particular ID, right? So let's go and give it a try. So there you go, we have the minus button and the quantity has been 1. So we are seeing the quantity of 1 because of this event, this action that has been dispatched, that is increment quantity from the product reducer file. Okay, so that's the way this works. So hopefully you would have understood this. So the next thing we'll be looking into is, let's come back to dress item. So we will give actions for the plus button as well as the minus button, right? So let's do that real quick. So for the pressable, I'm gonna say on press. Okay, so here also it's gonna be super similar from the previous one. We're gonna dispatch two events, one for the cart reducer and second one for the product reducer, right? So firstly, let's dispatch for cart. I'm gonna say dispatch. Okay, so since this is a plus button, I'm gonna dispatch increment quantity from the cart reducer first, and the payload of course is gonna be item that is coming from the props. Okay, and the next thing I'll be dispatching is again increment quantity. Okay, so I think this has already been imported from the product reducer from the previous function. So let's just copy that out, and I'm gonna say item. Okay, so now let's do the same thing for our second pressable, that is the minus button. So I'm gonna say on press. Okay, so again it's gonna be super similar. I'm gonna say dispatch decrement quantity firstly from the cart reducer, and I'm gonna pass in the item, and I'm again gonna say dispatch, and I'm gonna say increment decrement quantity qty of the product reducer, again the item. Okay, so just format once and save the file. Okay, so now currently we can't see. Let me just write down the comment. So this is for the cart and this is for the product. The same thing goes over here, the cart and then product. Okay, so currently if I press on the plus button, you can't see this one working because we do not have a cart screen entirely, right? Whereas you can see this working. That means this has to be executed, and the quantity should be increased by 1. So let's give that a try. So there you go, the quantity is increasing. Whereas this you can't see because we do not have a cart screen yet, but we are going to implement that in the later part of the video. And again over here, let me just dispatch this item, that is decrement quantity. Again you can't see the cart result. So there you go. So if I press on the minus button, you can see again the add button showing up. Okay, because we have just removed that item from the cart. Okay, so that's it about the Redux cart system that we have developed. So the next thing we'll be looking into is firstly let's install React navigation into the system. So let's do that part. Let's head over to Chrome first and search for React navigation. Go into the first link, then read docs. We're going to install it using yarn. So let's pretty much copy that out and let's paste it over here. Okay, and the next thing we want is basically this one. If you are using a expo manage project, let's pretty much copy this code for safe area context and React Native screens. Let's paste that out. And the next thing we want is let's move on to React navigation and let's install the native stack that is required, and let's pretty much paste it over here. Okay, so the next step is of course to create a native stack navigator. So I'm gonna open up my file tree and then I'm gonna create a new file with the name stack navigator.js, and then rnfes to get the shorthand snippet, and then save the file. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is pretty much take in the navigation container from here and paste it over here instead of the view. So let's import the navigation container and let's also initialize our create native stack navigator with the help of this code. So I'm going to paste it over here and let's import this as well. Okay, so inside the stack navigator they have initialized the first screen, and we also have our first screen as the home screen. So let's pretty much import the component from the screens folder. Okay, So let me save the file, and inside my app.js, okay, I think one file is not saved. Okay, and inside my app.js I'm gonna just remove this thing, and I'm gonna paste in my stack navigator. Okay, hopefully nothing should go wrong. Let's give that a try. Yeah, it's working absolutely fine. So now, as you can see, we do not want this coming right, the heading of the home screen. So for that reason, let me go on to the stack navigator and provide some options to the stack screen over here. So I'm basically gonna say header shown, and I'm gonna set it to be false, as such, like this. Save the file. Yeah, so you can see that coming properly. So now if at all there is some items added into the cart, we're going to show a UI over here so that we can navigate to the next screen. Okay, so if you check out over here, yeah, the same thing we're going to say proceed to the next screen over here. So let's build that up. Okay, so let's come back to my home screen, and uh, where was it? Yeah, so I'm going to put up a fragment. The reason I'm putting up a fragment is I want to render that design right after the scroll view because it needs to be fixed. All right, so I'm just going to say pressable. Okay, so as you can see, we have two views inside of it. So I'm going to say view. So this contains two pieces of text, and again over here I'm going to say a pressable, which is going to contain a text so that we can navigate. We're going to say text, and we're going to say proceed to pickup. Okay, so after that we have is basically number of items, right? So here we're going to say text. Okay, after that we have another text which says extra charges might apply, and here let's get access to the cart inside a home screen. I think we already have access to cart over here, so we're just gonna say a number of items, right? So to calculate the number of items, it's just gonna be cart.length. That gives you the number of items inside the cart. Okay, and pretty much save the file. Yeah, so hopefully you are getting all of the items over here, right? So that's good. So the next thing we do is we're gonna style up the pressable. So we're gonna say style. So let's give it a background color, the same color we gave it to the add button. So I'm gonna go into my dress item component and pretty much take out the color. I think that is this one. Oh yeah, I think it's this one. And I'm gonna paste it over here. I'm gonna give some internal spacing of 10 and a margin bottom of 30 and save the file. Yeah, so you can see that coming, and I'm gonna give a bit of external spacing, that's margin of 15. Okay, and I'm gonna give a slight border radius of 7. Yeah, so for the pressable I'm gonna also give a flex direction of row and align items of center. Okay, so you can check out the code, save the file. Yeah, so and I'm also gonna give a justify content of space between, right? So now let me just style out all of the texts. Okay, yeah, so currently we can see the UI, right? But we should only see it if at all the item is present inside the cart or not. Okay, so for that firstly I'm going to calculate the total price. Okay, so let's do that over here. So I'm going to say const total equals to cart.map. So for every item, okay, I'm just going to say item dot quantity, okay, and then multiplied by item dot price. Okay, and then we are gonna reduce it because we have many items that is present. So I'm gonna take in the basically the current and the previous value. I'm just gonna say current plus previous, and the reduce method is gonna take in another parameter, that is the initial value. So I'm gonna provide it an initial value of 0. Okay, so save the file. So firstly, let me write the condition. Okay, so if at all the total equals to 0, okay, then in that case we are not showing anything, right? So we're just gonna say null, else we're just gonna show the pressable, right? So now that should go off. So if at all I add some items, you should be seeing that because we have the total price. Okay, so now what we do is we're gonna style out the texts, right? I'm gonna give style over here. You're gonna say font size of 14 and then font weight of 500. Let's give it a color of white. Okay, and let's give some margin bottom 40, and let's give the style for the second piece of text. So I'm gonna say a font size of 17 and font weight of 400, or let's keep it to be lesser than the previous one. Let's keep it 13. Let's give this 15 and a font weight of 600, and this also is going to have a color of white. And let's give some margin vertical to this. Okay, and let's style the proceed to pickup. So we're going to say style a font size of 17 and a font weight of 600. Okay, so let's give it a color of white. Okay, yeah, I think it's a bit more bold over here. Let's increase the size a bit to 17 and 600, and yeah, let's render also the total over here. So we have already calculated the total, so I'm just going to render that. Okay, yeah, so you can see the total coming. The price is 10 and it's 10 over here. So let me write the dollar. Yeah, let's give some spacing over here as well. Yeah, I think that's looking better, right? So now the next step is, I think this is looking super small, right? Let's make that 14. Yeah, 15 looks good. Yeah, so the next step is to create a new screen, that is a pickup screen. So let me do that. So screens, I'm gonna say pick up screen .js, and I'm gonna say rnfes to get the shorthand snippet. Okay, and yeah, so the next step is to initialize our pickup screen inside of our stack navigator. So I'm gonna say stack.screen. So the name is gonna be pickup, and component is gonna be pickup screen, and options header shown again we're gonna say false. Okay, and let's import the pickup screen from the home screen, sorry, from the screens component. Save the file, and let's come back to my home screen. Let's initialize the navigation. Okay, is it already initialized? Nope. So let me do that over here. So I'm gonna say const navigation equals to use navigation, import it from React navigation, and when I press on the proceed to pick up button, I need to be navigated to the next screen. Okay, so I'm gonna say on press, I'm gonna write navigation dot navigate So inside the navigate method, we need to pass the name of the screen we want to navigate to. So inside the stack navigator, if you have checked it out, the name we have given is pickup, right? So let me copy that name, and I'm just gonna paste it over here. So navigation.navigate to the pickup screen. So if at all I press over here, so there you go, we are navigated to the next screen. So inside the pickup screen, firstly let's make use of a safe area view instead of a normal view. Okay. And I'm gonna paste it over here. Okay, so now let's start styling the pickup screen. So the first thing is the text input that we have, right? So the first thing that comes inside the pickup screen is the text input, right? So if you check out the design over here, we have a basic text input to enter the address. So let's go design that part. So firstly, let me import text input from React Native, and instead of this text, I'm gonna say enter address. Okay, and save the file. So for this, I'm gonna give a font size of 16 and a font weight of 500. Okay, and let me also give some margin horizontal of 10. Okay, and after that we have is a text input field. So I'm gonna write that out. So it's gonna be completely empty, no placeholder inside of it. So I'm gonna give just the style for the text input. Okay, so it's gonna have basically a padding of 40, and I'm gonna give a border color of gray, a slight border width of let's say 0.7, and we have some padding vertical of 80 and a slight border radius of 9 and some external spacing that is a margin of 10. So let me save the file. Yeah, so you can see that coming out, right? So after that we have is the next thing is the pickup date, right? So let me just copy the text from over here. I'm gonna paste it over here. So instead of this, I'm gonna say pick up date. So for this, we'll be making use of a dependency that is the horizontal date picker. So I'm gonna head over to Chrome and I'm gonna say horizontal date picker React Native. So I'm gonna go over here, the first link, and let's head over to the GitHub repository. Okay, I think I need to verify something. Okay, let's come back and look into this one. No, I just wanted the first one itself. Okay, let me just yeah, I think it has opened. That's good. So let me just install it using yarn. Let's pretty much copy this code out and paste it over here. So I'm gonna copy this out, that is horizontal date picker, and I'm gonna paste it right after the text. Okay, and let me import it from the correct dependency, and let's initialize our state for it, right? Because they've given this one that is set selected date, so whatever the user presses on, that date needs to be selected. So I'm gonna say const selected date, right? Yeah, const selected date comma set selected date equals to a use state imported from React, and initially I'm going to pass in an empty string. Okay, so whatever the user presses on, that will be stored inside of our state, that is selected date. So let me just save the file. Okay, so we have an error which says moment Jalali could not be found. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's pretty much add that dependency. I'm going to say yarn add moment Jalali. I think that's the right spelling. Okay, let's install this one. Okay, so let me just save the file. Yeah, so yeah, you can see that coming. Okay, it's working correctly. So let me just change the dates to this here. You can put in any starting dates and ending dates if you want to. Okay, so let's keep it like this. Okay, that's weird. Okay, we do not have 31 days in February, right? I'm just going to say 27. Yeah, so now you should be seeing it. Okay, so let's put it from 21 to 28. You pretty much select the dates, you can see that particular day with the date. Okay, and it will be stored inside of your state. So the next thing we have is, let me pretty much copy this and I'm gonna paste it over here. So the next thing we have is select time. So I'm gonna say select time like this. Okay, so let me just get the data for the select time as well as the delivery time. Okay guys, I've just pasted the code for the delivery time as well as the time. Okay, so firstly I'm gonna map over the time. I'm gonna say times dot map. So for each item and index, okay, I'm basically gonna return a pressable. Okay, so let me just import pressable from React Native as such. Alright, and inside the pressable let me render a text field which is gonna be the item dot name itself. Okay, because we want to render this time, not item dot name, it's gonna be item dot time. So save the file. Yeah, and we want it to be in a horizontal fashion, so I'm gonna say a scroll view. Okay, so let me import scroll view from React Native over here. Okay, and let me just put this inside the scroll view. So I'm gonna say horizontal because we want it to be in horizontal fashion, and I'm also gonna say show horizontal scroll indicator, and I'm gonna set to be false for now. Okay, yeah, so you can see that working properly. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give the styling for the pressable over here. So I'm gonna give some external spacing because all of them are touching each other, margin of 10, and I'm gonna say border radius of 7 and some internal spacing that is padding of 15. Okay, let me also give a border color of gray and a border width of 0.7. okay, yeah, so you can see that horizontally scrollable. Okay, so now if you press on any one of the timings, that should be selected and it should be shown in the red background color. Okay, not red background color, red border color. Okay, so let me implement that. So if at all, I'm going to say on press. Okay, we are going to say firstly let's initialize state for this, right? So const selected time comma set selected time equals to use state. I'm going to pass in an empty array at the initial state. Okay, so I'm going to say on press set selected time to be the item dot time. Okay, so inside my style I'm gonna make a bit of change. Okay, so I'm gonna write in style again. So I'm gonna say if the selected time dot includes, I'll be making use of the includes function. If it includes the item dot time, then in that case I'm gonna show some style, else I'm gonna show the default style itself, right? So I'm gonna pretty much copy this, remove this style out. Okay, and I'm gonna paste both of them over here. Okay, so if it includes a time, then the border color should be gray. Sorry, not gray, red. And if it doesn't include, it should be the original thing itself. So save the file. So if I press on any one of it, so there you go. So currently 1 p.m. is selected and we have that border color for that particular time. Okay, so let me save the file and let me just do the same thing for the next piece of information, that is the delivery date. So firstly, let me copy this text again, and I'm going to paste it right after the scroll view. So this is going to be delivery date. Okay, so the next thing is pretty much I'm going to initialize my scroll view again. Okay, so now this time I'm going to map over the delivery time. Okay, so I'm going to say delivery time dot map. So for each item and index, I'm going to return again a pressable over here. This is going to contain the text attribute. So this time it's going to be, so let's check out the delivery time. It's going to be name. Okay, so I'm going to say item dot name, and let's provide the key. We have not given it to the previous one as well. So it's going to be key equals to index. Okay, and over here also we're going to say key equals to I. So over here horizontal, again we're going to give that, and show horizontal scroll indicator, we're going to set it to be false. Yeah, so there you go, we are able to see that. So again, let me firstly initialize state for the delivery. So I'm going to say const delivery time. Okay, it's already included. I'm just going to say const delivery comma set delivery equals to a use state of again an empty array. So on press of the pressable, okay, what I'm going to say is set delivery to the item dot name. Okay, so I'm just going to copy the same piece of styling for the previous, from the previous pressable, because it's going to be the exact same thing. I'm going to paste it over here. Okay, so instead of selected time dot includes, I'm going to say delivery dot includes. Okay, so let me save the file once. Yeah, so there you go, it's working absolutely fine. So I'm going to select the time, and okay, this is not working. Okay, because over here inside the includes function we have item dot time, right? We need to be checking for item dot name. Yeah, hopefully now it should work. Yeah, so there you go, that has been selected. Okay, so I think that's it about the pickup screen. Okay, so the next thing we design is this part. Okay, so this part we've already designed, so I'm just going to copy that from our home screen, right? That was where it was done. So pretty much copy the entire thing. Okay, so come back to my pickup screen. So I'm going to again initialize my fragment. I'm going to paste it over here, and after the safe area view, I'm going to render the total. Okay, so firstly we need access to the cart, as well as we need to calculate the total, because that's not been done inside the pickup screen. So I'm going to do that right over here. Get the cart as well as the total price. Okay, so import the necessary things, that is the use selector, and we have the cart. Okay, so I think let's save the file. Okay, you can see that coming, and I think it's better to give, a margin top of auto to this, or you can also make it scroll view so that it automatically comes to the bottom. So save the file. Let's try out this first. Okay, I think that's working fine. So yeah, the next thing we do is when you press on proceed to pick up, right, we're gonna check if all of the details have been selected or not. Okay, so if they're selected, then only we're gonna go to the next screen. So instead of proceed to pickup, it's gonna say proceed to cart. Okay, so let's remove this out. So I'm gonna say on press equals to uh, proceed to cart, and I'm gonna paste, I'm gonna define this function right at the top, equals to an arrow function. Okay, and yeah, so firstly let's check if all of them are empty or not. So I'm gonna say uh, if not of the selected date, or if not of the selected time, or if not of the delivery, then in that case any one of them has not been selected. So here we'll be making use of the alert message. I think that is there inside. I think we have not implemented that, right? So let's pretty much copy it from the React Native docs itself. I'm going to say alert React Native. Okay, we'll be making use of the 2 button alert. So pretty much let's select it from here. I'm gonna just copy this piece of code and I'm gonna paste it over here. Let's import alert from React Native. Okay, and after doing that, we're gonna just change the message which says empty or invalid, something like this. And inside the message we're going to say please select all the fields. Okay, something like this, and we're going to save the file. Okay, so again we're going to put in the condition which says if selected date and selected time and our delivery, if all of that value is present, then itself we're going to say, firstly let's initialize my navigation. I'm going to say const navigation equals to use navigation. Okay, so here I'm going to say navigation dot navigate. Okay, so let me first create my card screen that's not been created. So I'm gonna say card screen.js. So I'm gonna type in R and FES to get the shorthand snippet. And the next step is to include my card screen inside my stack navigator. So I'm gonna say stack.screen. So the name is gonna be card. Okay, component is gonna be card screen, and again over here header shown false. Let me import my card screen from the screens folder as such, save the file, and then I'm going to come back to my pickup screen and we'll be passing the name of the screen we want to navigate to. So since we want to navigate to the cart screen, I'm going to say cart. So one mistake I've done is instead of navigate, I'm going to say replace, because after moving to the cart screen, I do not want to come back to the screen. So I'm going to say replace to cart. Okay, so let's give it a try. So in case if I press on this without selecting, it should give me a alert box if we have done everything correctly. So let's give that a try. So there you go, it's working absolutely fine. So let's pretty much select all of the details. Okay, over here, and we're going to press on proceed to cart. So now over here everything has been selected, so it should move to the cart screen, right? So there you go, that's working absolutely fine. So inside the cart screen, again we're going to make use of a safe area view instead of a normal view, and we're going to paste it over here. Okay, save the file. Yeah, so now let's start designing the cart screen. So basically cart screen is going to have all of the items that is present inside of a cart, with the minus button and the plus button to increase or decrease quantity, and below that we'll be having the billing details, okay, which actually gives us the information about the cart items and the delivery time, the selected time, and all of those details. And we'll have the button at the bottom to navigate to the final screen, that is the order screen. Okay, so let's get started with the first thing, that is to display all of the items present inside our cart. Okay guys, so the first thing inside the cart screen is that it's going to have a back button and a text attribute. Okay, so we're going to design that. So before that, let's make the safe area view a scroll view, because if in case there are a lot of items, then we need to initialize the scroll view, right? So I'm going to do that over here. So I'm going to say scroll view, and let's give some margin top of 50 and save the file. Okay, so the first thing, as I told, firstly we are going to calculate the total. So cart items are only shown if there is some total present, right? So I'm going to copy the total from the pickup screen, paste it over here, import the cart first. Let's also import the cart. Import the use selector, and firstly we're going to say if the total equals to 0, then in that case we're just going to say, here we're going to say return a view, and we're going to have a text attribute which says your cart is empty. So we're going to give some style for this. We're going to give justify content of center, align items of center. Okay, and we're going to give, I think that's it. So for the text, let's give some margin top of 40. Okay, so instead of a text, you can add some images which says the card is empty or not. I'm just putting up a random text over here. You can go and explore out more and do the design part well. So yeah, if the items is present, then we are going to render the view first. So this is going to have the back button, as I told. So let me render the back button first. So I'm going to go into export.icons.fii and the first link, I'm going to search for back. I'm going to choose this one from icons. Let me just import that over here, copy the render component code, and we're going to paste it over here. Okay, so it's going to have a text which says your bucket, and for the view I'm going to give some styling, or let's say a padding of 10. Okay, so let's remove this text which says cart screen. Okay, so for the view I'm going to give a flex direction of row and align items of center. Okay, I think that's looking better. So now I'm going to initialize my navigation over here. So const navigation equals to use navigation, imported from React Native. So on press of the icon, the user should be taken back to the home screen, because inside the pickup screen we have given navigation.replace and not navigation.navigate, right? So I'm going to say on press equals to navigation dot go back. Okay, so save the file. So after that we are going to render our pressable, which is going to contain basically the items, right? So over here I'll be making use of the cart. I'll be mapping over it, and I'm going to display all of the items. I'm going to say cart.map for each item and index. I'm going to return let's say a view, okay, which is going to contain three things. The first thing is the text, which is going to contain my item.name. After that we have the pressable, which contains the minus button and the plus button, and finally we have the other text which contains the price. It's going to be item.price multiplied by its quantity, item.quantity. Okay, so first let me give some styling for the pressable over here. It's going to have a background color of white. Okay, let me import pressable first. So background color of white, and we're going to give some border radius of 12 and margin left of 10 and margin right of 10. We're also going to give some internal spacing, that is a padding of 14. Okay, and let me just save the file. Yeah, so you can see there is just one item currently, that is shirt, and you can see that coming out, that is the white background. Let's give it the key. It's going to be the index in this case. Save the file. Okay, so let me just get the code for this because you've already implemented this, so it's going to contain the minus and plus button, right? Okay guys, I've just pasted the code for the minus and plus button. It's going to be just super similar with just minute changes. Okay, so pressable is already imported. So this is the outer pressable. It's going to contain 3 children as usual, the minus button, the quantity, and this is the plus button. Okay, so this is the styling for the outer pressable. You can check it out. And the first thing inside the pressable is the minus button. You can check out the styles for it. Okay, and after that we have is the item.quantity. You can check out the styles for it. And similarly we have it for the other pressable, the third pressable, that is the plus button. Okay, so you can check that out, and I'm gonna provide, first let me save the file so you can see that coming, right? So for the view, this outer view, I'm gonna give the styling. Basically I'm gonna give a flex direction of row, align items of center, and justify content of space between. Okay, so you can see that coming correctly as we want, and I'm gonna give some width to the text. I'm gonna give a width of 100, and I'm gonna add a font size of 16 and a font weight of, let's say, 500. Okay, so for, let me just copy the same piece of styling for the last text that contains the price. Let me put dollar over here. Let's remove the width attribute. Okay, yeah, I think that's looking better. So now what we're going to do is we're going to of course put in the functionalities for plus and minus button. So it's going to be the exact same thing that we have done inside a home screen, not home screen, the dress item component. So let me just copy that out. So for the minus button, we're going to dispatch 2 events again, one for the cart and for the product, so that if in case I change the quantity over here, the same thing should be reflected inside my dress item component. Okay, so where is the cart screen? So for the minus button, I'm going to give, I think that's over here. Let's import decrement quantity, and this from product reducer. Let's initialize my dispatch. I'm going to say const dispatch equals to use dispatch. Okay, I've imported it from React Redux, and the same thing I'm going to do it for the plus. Okay, I'm going to copy that over here on press, come back to my cart screen, and where we have the plus, I'm going to paste it over here. So pretty much import increment quantity and increment quantity from the product reducer. Save the file. Nothing should go wrong, hopefully. Okay, so now if I press on the plus button, automatically it should be increased, the quantity. So there you go, the quantity is increased and even the price has been increased. Okay, so yeah, so the next thing we are gonna design is we are gonna show the billing details, right? So that's gonna come right after the pressable. So I'm gonna have a view which is gonna have a text which says billing details. Okay, so for the view, let's give some internal spacing, that's padding of 10. Okay, so now let's run our app from the beginning. Let's add some more products and see how exactly it's looking. Okay, So let's run it again. Oh, okay, again we have that same error, that is, invariant, that is the view prop types error. So I'm just gonna solve this and come back. Okay. So okay guys, so now the app has been opened. I'm gonna add few products into the cart, let's say 3 of them, and proceed to pick up. I'm gonna choose a date and the timings and press on proceed to cart. Okay, so we have one spacing error, so let's look into that. So inside my cart screen, let's give the margin vertical to the view of 10. Okay, or 15. Yeah, I think 12 looks good. Okay, so now we are going to render the billing details over here. Okay guys, so for the billing details, I'm just gonna paste out the different details that are present. Okay, there is nothing to implement or something like that. I'm gonna remove the view and paste it over here. Okay, so it's pretty much just basic views with different styles inside of it, and we have already implemented this inside our previous project, right? So I'm just gonna show everything from the start. So it's gonna have so this is the outer view. It's gonna have a margin horizontal of 10, and it has a text of billing details, and for each of the text that is present, it's gonna this is the external view that is present with the background color of white, and this is the style. And for the external view, we have different views. Each single view is going to have two texts. One is the item total and the total price that we have calculated, and then we have just basic text which says delivery fee of 1.2 kilometers and which says free. And similarly, we have free delivery on your order, all those simple texts. Okay, and we have basically, yeah, the number of days, and this is coming from the root param. So let me just initialize my root params. I'm going to say const root equals to use route, import from react navigation like it. And yeah, so pretty much you can see all of these details. Okay, so I think I forgot to send one more details over here. So I'm gonna say uh, let me just check the exact spelling. So selected time, so selected time is gonna be whatever is stored inside of state, that is this selected time. Okay, and after that we have is uh, we have number of days. Okay, so number of days is gonna be a delivery, right? So I'm gonna say delivery, and the next thing we have is the pickup date. So this is gonna be selected date. Okay, so let me just refresh the app and begin right from the start, because these details have not been sent previously, right? So I'm gonna just send it over. So let's add some items into our cart. Okay, let's proceed to pick up and then select the dates over here, proceed to cart. Okay, currently we are not able to see the billing details. Why is that? Because I've not saved the file, right? Save the file. So there you go. So this was done previously in the previous application itself. So I've just taken the design from there. So it's pretty simple, guys. You have to just use a white color background and a view inside of it. So it contains 3 views, and each of the view has 2 text inside of it, and we are given the same style for each of the view, that is flex of row, align item center, justify space between, and a margin vertical of 10. So you can look into the styles and design of it. Okay, I'm gonna share it. I'm gonna show it right from the beginning once again. Okay, here the view starts from here. Okay, so after that we have is the button to place the order. So I'm gonna initialize a fragment over here right at the top, because this is gonna come right after our scroll view. Okay, so I'm gonna pretty much copy this out, come over here, paste it after the scroll view. Okay, I'm gonna copy the same thing that is present inside my pickup screen. Got it? So pretty much copy the total and paste it over here. Okay, save the file. Can't find proceed to cart, is it? Okay, so let's proceed to pickup and then add some details over here. Proceed to cart. So there you go, you can see over here. So instead of proceed to cart, it's going to be a place order. Okay, got it. So now I think that's it. So I think that's it for this video. So in the next session we will be initializing a backend, storing all of the details in the backend, and we will be initializing our login screen and the register screen, and storing the users inside of a firebase, and whatever so if the user presses on the place order button, so all of these details should be stored inside of firebase for that particular user id. Okay, so I think the next screen, that is the order screen, we can design in the next video itself. So I think that's it about the first video. So let's see in the next video, and then thank you for watching.